Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλησπέρα σας. Καλώς ήρθατε σε μία ακόμη εκπομπή Ευρώπη τώρα. Για τα επόμενα λεπτά θα είμαστε μαζί για να παρακολουθήσουμε όλες τις τελευταίες εξελίξεις από το Ευρωπαϊκό Κοινοβούλιο. Μπορούμε να ξεκινήσουμε με το πρώτο μας θέμα. Οι πολίτες τάσσονται υπέρ της μεγαλύτερης ασφάλειας στα εξωτερικά σύνορα. Ωστόσο, υπάρχει ανησυχία για αφαίρεση ελευθεριών και μονοκόμματη προσέγγιση.
An estimated 5,000 EU citizens have left Europe for Middle Eastern conflict zones recently, mainly Syria and Iraq. Those who returned arrived with combat experience and jihadist zeal. Witness last year's attacks in Paris. Europe is responding to the heightened terrorist threat by tightening controls on its external borders. Romanian MEP Monica Macovei and Austrian MEP Ulrika Lunacek are steering the legislation through Parliament. Do new European Commission measures to have IDs checked against several data banks go far enough to hold radicalised fighters?
That's one reason for modifying these Schengen rules, to be able to identify them. Probably if you see a citizen of from a EU country going to Syria or again based on information, yes, you could stop. We have more databases. Europol, Frontex, plus the national databases. For instance, if someone uses a stolen ID or a fake ID and so on, or if there are information that someone comes in to the EU to put in danger the security of the citizens.
Some terrorists of the attacks of Paris and others have been or are EU citizens that had been traveling outside and then coming back in from Syria or elsewhere through EU external borders, and they pass through even though in some of the databases they had already been marked and there was already there should be a hit system on them and then they could be checked further. So now the idea is to use all these three databases, the Interpol databases, the Schengen system, and also national databases. So this is something that has to deal with terrorists, with international crime. It doesn't have anything to do with refugees. That is also important to clarify.
Have they got the balance right between the need for security and freedom of movement?
Even if we have to do such checks of the ID, if it counterbalance the need for security. European citizens do not feel secure, they fear, and rightly so. So I think it's better to make sure that everyone who goes in and out is checked, including me, including you, including anyone who is honest, in order to stop those who come to bring fear and terror and death in the European Union.
The problem I have with that as a Green is that it really will have every EU citizen being checked at the external borders. We could have too long waiting queues at the borders for EU citizens, and that is not something we want. And also as a Green, I don't want this system to be very intrusive. Yeah? And in a way, it's something a bit backward. Yeah? Personally, I'm more in favor to keep more of the freedoms alive, because there is no 100% security. There never is in life.
Do these measures go hand in hand with other social measures to deal with radicalised citizens?
There will be more security checking, and the border should have more people, should have more equipment, and so on. More computers to look into and to see in the Schengen information system, for instance, who I am and everything.
When you look into the reasons why many of these young men and some young women as well become radicalized, it has a lot more to do with a sense of not belonging, with a sense of having been traumatized on certain issues, with a sense of wanting to be somebody, with a lack of self-esteem. Yeah? And that then makes them radical. So there's a lot of psychology in it. I mean, some people who have extreme views, not necessarily, or radical views, not necessarily they become violent. Yeah? So this step has to be prevented, and that needs a lot more money, a lot more education of teachers, of social workers, of psychologists, etc., and also using them.
Στις Βρυξέλλες πραγματοποιήθηκε τριήμερο συνέδριο για να αποφασιστεί η μεταρρύθμιση για την νομοθεσία στην Ουκρανία.
A vote on a trade deal back in 2014 brought Ukraine closer to Europe, but has yet managed to strengthen its struggling economy. At the European Parliament, a three-day conference full of meetings to find solutions for reform in Europe's eastern neighbour.
Wir brauchen in diesen turbulenten Zeiten, in denen wir leben, eine stabile Ukraine.
To reform a country, have such a big transformation process, and at the same time fight the enemy which has occupied part of your country, that I think is an incredible job, where we have to be helpful that they can achieve the goals.
The large delegation of Ukrainian parliamentarians included their chairman, Volodymyr Groysman.
Я би не сказав, що ми щось просимо. Ми будуємо рівноправний діалог і визначаємо спільний план дій. А зараз на українському тижні ми визначили спільний план дій, використання досвіду наших європейських партнерів і їхню підтримку щодо реформи українського парламенту. Український парламент має стати провідною демократичною, законодавчою європейською інституцією України.
For Mr. Groysman, the ball lies in Russia's court to bring stability to the region.
Σκάνδαλο των εκπομπών. Η εξέταση από το Κοινοβούλιο ξεκινά. Ας δούμε το βίντεο που ακολουθεί.
How much did the EU and member states turn a blind eye to the defeat devices VW used to cheat diesel emission readings? How much did they fail to review test cycles and link them to real conditions? Key questions for a new parliamentary committee of inquiry into emissions measurements in the automotive sector. Its one-year mandate has officially begun under the chairmanship of Belgian MEP Kathleen van Bremt.
Let's go to our first question, and this is it.
There have been major consumer concerns about car manufacturers manipulating both emissions and fuel consumption tests long before the Volkswagen scandal emerged. In regard to the use of defeat devices, what can we expect from the inquiry in terms of investigating why the European Commission and member states didn't act in advance of US authorities? And based on those findings, what sort of action can we expect from the committee to make sure that consumers are protected in the future?
A lot of European consumers, they feel cheated, not just because of the Volkswagen scandal, but also of the fact that there is on the one hand the emissions and what is allowed for the emissions of Euro 5, Euro 6, which we voted on in 2007, that's almost 10 years ago. And the mere fact that it's only on paper, that in real driving situation, and that's what it's all about, it's not about testing in a laboratory, in real driving situation, there's 20%, 30%, even much higher pollutions from these cars. How the laboratory testing is conducted. It has nothing to do with the real driving situation. But of course we didn't know that it was so bad, and we didn't know that there was fraud taking place. Well, at least I didn't know, and that means the Parliament didn't know. So that needs to be addressed in a proper way. I don't like to do politics based on indications and rumors and this and that. What we need is real data, real evidence, and then we can adjust our policy to that.
Okay, let's go to our second question, which is from the industry.
The new regulation on emission testing and on lower emission are a great step forward. What we are wondering is how can this new regulation help our automotive industry to maintain its current position as world leading? So that's what we are wondering.
This is not an inquiry committee against our automotive industry. Yeah? It's a very important industry. There's a lot of people working there, and we would want them to be leading. My firm belief is that good, ambitious legislation on emissions, CO2, NOx, others, very ambitious legislation is not against the industry, but is just pushing them in the right direction, and is also a driver of innovation. What we want as members of the parliament, but representing the citizens, is to have the clean cars of the future.
How much does it go back to key strategic decisions to put a big emphasis on the production of diesel cars, because 15-20 years ago it was thought that these cars are less harmful?
Yes, it was based on the whole idea that diesel is better for the environment. We now know that it's a more complex situation. It has to, on the one hand, it has to do with CO2 emissions, and on the other hand, it has to do with emissions that is very much related to air pollution, mainly in our cities. And both of them are very important. Do not ask us to choose which is more important, the climate issues or the clean air issues. What we need is to make sure the legislation that is now in place and the legislation that will be in the future in place related to CO2 and to all these emissions related to clean air, that they are implemented and reinforced.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to our final question.
You have a unique opportunity to discover why European regulators failed to detect defeat devices and to expose continuous collusion between the national authorities, testing services and car makers in Europe that allows car makers to emit high diesel NOx and CO2 emissions. The question is why European regulators failed to adequately test cars on our roads, and why there is continuous unnecessary secrecy when it comes to testing compared to the US.
Well, every question she asked will be addressed in the inquiry committee. We will be looking not only to the implementation at the European level, and in that sense look what the Commission has done and hasn't done, but also, of course, the Member States and the national authorities.
But can you envisage at all a point at which there is a pan-European testing agency?
If you talk about a level playing field, why should it be even possible that you as a car manufacturer can go shopping where you would like to have your approval? That doesn't make any sense, does it? I'm completely convinced that's the way to go, and I'm completely convinced that we will get there.
Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that.
Στην ατζέντα για αυτή την εβδομάδα βρίσκονται τα δεινά των γυναικών προσφύγων, οι ασθένειες των ζώων, καθώς και το λαθρεμπόριο καπνού.
Coming up in Parliament's plenary session in Strasbourg, the fight against animal disease, including diseases contractable by humans, the plight of women refugees and asylum seekers, and a terrifying echo from childhood's past. Eat your vegetables and drink your milk. It'll make you fit and healthy. The peril of animal diseases like swine fever and Asian flu has swept the headlines in recent years. On Monday, MEPs will debate a law which clusters almost 40 items of legislation designed to point up the obligations of farmers, traders, vets and pet owners to avoid the spread of disease. The new legislation will be voted on Tuesday. In the maelstrom of issues surrounding the refugee crisis, scant attention goes to women. Many are fleeing rape, forced marriage or genital mutilation. On their journey, they face assault. On Tuesday, after hearing from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, MEPs will vote on proposals recognising the unique situation for women, including the need for gender-segregated facilities and health and childcare services. Not by chance is it International Women's Day. MEPs are not happy with the way the world's tobacco giants are tackling cigarette smuggling, nor with the European Commission's recent anti-counterfeiting deals with them. MEPs want new tracking systems in place. They'll be voting on a resolution on better scrutiny tools on Wednesday. And now, in brief, some other key events. The efficiency of Europe's ports and their diverse costs and operating methods are to be scrutinised on Tuesday during a vote on market access to ports. It's designed to ensure fair and transparent fee setting and with it boost trade. MEPs will vote on a draft deal between the EU's main institutions to improve lawmaking. It's part of the Juncker Commission's pledge to do less, better, improving the planning, quality and transparency of lawmaking and public understanding of it all. On Thursday, MEPs will debate the reform efforts of Montenegro and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, pointing to progress by both towards EU membership. They'll also debate the deteriorating human rights and rule of law in Eritrea, where many of the refugees recently arriving in Europe come from. The spring meeting of EU government leaders will also be debated. Last month it was all about the deal with the UK. This month, it's new proposals on migration and Eurozone governance. The same day, there'll be a debate with the Prime Minister of Sweden, Stefan Löfven.
Drink your milk, enjoy your fruit, eat your greens. Parental orders that surely strike dread in the minds of chips and chocolate-loving children, but their consumption of fruit, milk and vegetables continues to fall across Europe.
Around 20 million are overweight. Adolescents eat only 30 to 50% of the recommended daily intake. MEPs will debate merging the EU schools' milk and vegetable schemes, lifting the budget by 20 million euros to 250 million. No excuses. Eat up.
That's it for a packed plenary week, which you can follow on Europower TV. Enjoy the week.
Η Ευρώπη από κάθε γωνιά της καλείται να ηγηθεί της ισότητας των δύο φύλων και να επιταχύνει την αλλαγή.
Actress. From a very young age and throughout our lives, our education, our experiences shape our future. But can you really get to be what you hope to be? Suffragette movements in the 19th and 20th centuries across America, to the UK and in Russia were the beginnings of women's fight for equality. But the struggle has been a hard one. Girls and women all over the world suffer sexual harassment. They are raped, they are trafficked, they are tortured, they are denied access to education, and they are not told that they can have both a successful family and professional life. Throughout the years, much has changed. We see more and more women in higher education. We see more and more women in top jobs. But in the workplace, are men and women really equal? Let's find out.
Bonjour, allez, venez. Alors, ici, vous allez emballer le chocolat. Vous allez mettre le chocolat dans la pochette, comme je le fais, jusqu'à la fin. Et à la fin, on va le mettre ici. Go.
The World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Index tracks gender disparity. It looks at 4 key areas: health, education, the economy and politics. When it comes to health and education, there's almost parity. But it's a different story when we look at the economy and politics. I mean, just look at the 2015 Forbes list of the most powerful people on the planet. Only 9 of them are women. On average, women can earn up to 16% less than men, and once in the workplace, they can face far more social discrimination. But looking around this shop floor, it would seem that men and women are pretty equal. Well, how about if we try a different kind of job?
Good morning, Miriam. Good to meet you. I'm Mark Cunningham. I'm one of the partners here.
Figures show that women account for 1.7 billion of the global labour workforce and make up 75% of all skilled employees. But you see, when it comes to leadership roles, that figure doesn't actually translate. Only 28% of women occupy the top spots in companies. Women also have an added pressure: pregnancy. Legislation to fight inequality is out there. The principle of equal pay was enshrined in the 1957 EU treaty. But despite that, progress on gender inequality has bumped along at a glacial speed. Analysts say the gap between men and women can't be closed till 2133. The European Commission has unveiled an equality roadmap for the future, but have yet to publish any concrete solutions. The European Parliament is pushing for legislative change.
We have seen in the beginning of the mandate the withdrawal of the maternity leave directive, which was the first step backwards. And now what we are seeing is the postponement of the Women on Boards directive. What we would need from the Commission is much more ambition and a much clearer voice and confidence in the fact that the European Union is responsible for gender equality.
If women stand together, there is hope for a better future.
This struggle is not over.
Discrimination based on gender can be wiped out. Who's listening?
διδάσκοντας τα παιδιά υγιεινές διατροφικές συνήθειες με τον εφοδιασμό των σχολείων με φρούτα και λαχανικά.
A healthy mind in a healthy body. The European Parliament wants to simplify the distribution of fruit, vegetables and milk in schools in the European Union. The aim is to encourage children to eat more healthily and to fight against steadily increasing child obesity. The cost of the programme, €250 million per school year.
C'est même peu, je veux dire, par rapport au budget européen. Vous savez, le budget de la PAC, c'est à peu près 55 milliards d'euros par an. Donc, c'est vraiment une infime partie du budget agricole qui est destiné quand même à une œuvre plus qu'utile. Et puis, il y aura aussi un volet, dans cette partie budgétaire, un volet qui est désormais consacré à des mesures éducatives.
When we do that, we are helping our farmers and local agriculture. But we have these two patterns, children with educational measures and healthy measures, and then the help that we give to our farmers.
The programme targets children between the age of 6 and 10.
Στο σημείο αυτό, κυρίες και κύριοι, θα κάνουμε ένα σύντομο διαφημιστικό διάλειμμα. Μείνετε στο Thrakinet, επιστρέφουμε σε πολύ λίγο με το δεύτερο μέρος της εκπομπής Ευρώπη τώρα.